Hey my YouTube friends. So in this video I want to bring you up to date on the 71 Pontiac Ventura. It's been a while since I've done some updates on this. Much of this video was shot over the period of January to the end of May, and I was never really happy with all the footage that I had. So I wanted to try and put it together here today and maybe do a little bit of narration to kind of give you a sense of what's been done on the car and where it currently is. So what I want to tackle here today is I want to fix this seat. What's wrong with the seat? Well, it's got no support left in it. And if you've seen one of my earlier videos of this where I was pulling all the covers off of it, the springs are completely shot in this, and I actually have a piece of board under the seat just for some support so I could drive the car. It's time to do something about this, and to do something, I wound up getting another seat out of the junkyard. I'll show you that now. So I pulled this out of a 77 Olds. I think it was an Omega. It's the X body. And it's actually in pretty good shape. It's very dirty, so I'm going to end up having to clean it up. But I'm really not worried about the backs. I just want the bottom. And it should be the same as what is in the Pontiac over here. So I figure with some dye, I can at least cover this up. Still throw a seat cover over it so it looks pretty decent. But my plan was that I was going to use the seat bottom and then use the original backs from the 71 and attach it. But unfortunately, they're just not the same, so I couldn't do that. To start this process, decided I was going to go ahead and remove the backs from the bench seat. When you're by yourself doing this, it makes it a lot easier to get the bench seat out of the car. To do this, you just need to remove the clip that's on one side, then pull the seat towards you to remove it from the peg, then tilt the seat forward, and then lift, and this will allow it to release from the very center of the bench seat. The seat belt's unbolted, the backs are off, all four bolts are undone on the tracks. I'm ready to pull this seat out. When doing this by yourself, it's a lot easier if the backs are off of it when you're talking about a bench seat. Yeah, I'm curious to see how bad this thing is. There's a possibility I may end up trying to fix this one instead of putting the other seat in. So I really don't know what I'm doing. I don't have any general experience with doing this, but I'm just going to disassemble this and see if I can make some repairs on it. I started working on this seat because after getting it out, I took measurements and found that it wasn't going to be the same to be able to use the backs off of the 71. And I'm going to spare you the boredom of me disassembling the seat and trying to repair the springs and the like. It just wasn't going to go anywhere. I did make it a little bit better, but then I priced out the materials and the cover, and it would probably be somewhere in the range of about $350 to $400 to recover this seat.
So it's not very
and
pretty, but
at the time, not what I wanted to do.
Together, since they were broken. This is the side support, and I just wrapped it with a little bit of clothes hanger wire and welded it together to kind of for some extra support. So it seems pretty strong, so I'm going to go ahead and try it. Now things are nice and solid. So it did both sides. Some changes have taken place on the Pontiac that I haven't done any videos on. One is I got these center caps for the wheels, which I think look pretty good. In fact, maybe I'll show you a picture of what it looks like with the new caps and trim rings. The other thing that I changed on the car, I have some video, but I was going to do it as complete replacement. And that is, I got a bench seat out of the junkyard that actually came out of probably a 75 to 79, which was still an X body. It was I guess it's the old Omega. It really wasn't bad. It's just the wrong color. It's blue. It's all cloth. And so I took the seat cover that was in this car. And one of the things I didn't like about the seat cover was it was for a standard non-folding bench. And what I wound up doing was I cut it, separated it, and here you can see I sewed it back together. I hadn't sewed anything since junior high school and home ec class, so there you go. At least I was able to still do it. Doesn't look very pretty, but it works. So there you go, life skill, how to sew. But that's the only thing I've changed, because the other one was so saggy and no support. It was really rough.
Another change was the striping on the car. Originally when I got this, it had a double white stripe across the top of the fender. I had some red and covered up one of the white stripes. And then I thought it needed a little bit more, so I kind of got carried away here. But I think it gives it a nice 70s kind of look. Another task that I needed to complete on the car at this time was bypassing the heater core. My plan was a simple fix of just simply disconnecting the hoses and putting a connector in between the two.
We wound up, oh my gosh, yeah, look how that moves. Yeah, that's definitely where it's been leaking. Okay, attempt number 2. There we go. Yeah, there's where I put it. I think he's on Amazon or about $20. So curious to see how this thing works out. Alright, let's see what all we got here. Instructions, we don't need any instructions. Fits nice and tight. Look at that. Right down in there like that. Oh, look at that heater hose is higher than the radiator. Yeah, got coolant on my floor. Sure, why not? Let's mess it up. Someday I'm actually going to put a epoxy coating on that floor. .50 mix. It looks green. Very green. Not bad for a cold start. Oh, man. Well, it only lasts for so long, and then that'll be it. Well, after it warmed up, and I feel pretty confident the thermostat has opened up, now I'm going to let it sit and cool. We'll see if it pulls any of this back in. After it does that, then we're supposed to squeeze the upper radiator hose, put the plug in it, then let go of the hose, which will suck any coolant left that's in this area below the funnel, and then cap it, and should be able to remove it.
Another item, though, on my list of things to fix was to replace this plastic line for the oil pressure. One of the problems I had with this was that it had a slight fold in it, which I'm sure was probably giving a false reading on the gauge. Also, this plastic line, these are prone to leakage, which I did also have some drippage on the inside of the car, so I'm going to replace it with the copper tube and do it right this time.
I'm going to take some of my swap meet purchases and do some installs. So this is for the front marker light. The other one's busted. So we got that. But what I'm really excited to do is replace the tail light. I know, it's not much better, but this is the first one I found since I bought this car that was available for sale. So it's going to be better than a hole. I'd rather have a crack than a hole. So there you go. Yeah, it's nothing that's listing left or right. So it should go on there. So we'll have to remove the other housing, remove all these screws, clean this up, and do the swap. Okay, that should be all the fasteners. It's probably never been out, so... Oh boy, I just realized that. Hopefully this bumper isn't going to be in the way from... Apparently, I think it's pushed up. There we go. Yeah, of course. Well, here you can see what I wound up doing. I used to come along and the telephone pole to pull the bumper out. This allowed me to remove the original light and install the replacement. I say it came out, it needs to go back in. Now the question is, how far back will the bumper go? Should I pull out on it a little bit more before I pull this other side? Well, I guess I won't know until I mess with it. Yeah, might not have gone back too far. Might have pushed it out a little bit. I've straightened so many bumpers using this telephone pole. Yeah, I think that actually is a little bit better than it was before. Just like on my brother's 69 Nova, I'm gonna do this rear package tray. So, using a template that I made off of the board that I made for his car, I was able to make this one, so it fits fairly well. It's off a little bit there on the ends, off a little bit up in there as well. Get that out of there. I think we're just gonna yank this out of here. It might be easier to do this if I pull this back seat out, and I can get that out of the way. Ow. Okay. High enough to slide this out. And that's glued in place. Now it's held by the door panels. I will take it out in pieces, I guess. Well, I got it glued on, but unfortunately, since the glue was pretty wet, some of it soaked through. So it's not perfect, but it's gonna look better than what it did before. Better than that crap down there. Let's see if you can see it from here. That looks a lot better than it did. Another project I want to get done before this car show is I want to get this dash taken care of. Now, I had to replace the glove box door. That was in another video because the other one, the latch was busted and they had glue and all kinds of craziness holding it on. So I painted a different lid and put on here, which worked out well, but now you can see how ugly the rest of the dash is. So I'm going to end up taping this off, sanding this, and repainting all this lower dash. The other thing I want to do is this needs to be re-secured, and I'm going to take this radio out of here. I do have an 8-track player that just for props that I'd like to put in here, but I'm not sure because I know that they would have cut all of this, so I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to doctor that up to to make it look decent. But at least I think I just want to take this thing out of here. Taped things up, did some cleaning, did a little bit of sanding. So I've got this about ready. So gonna get some paper on here and get some primer on this. Dash is painted, so while that's drying, I'm going to go on to my next small project that I need to take care of. And that would be this kick panel. This is my problem. So I had tape over it for the winter so I didn't have any cold air coming through it. But I was fortunate enough to find another kick panel at a swap meet that actually has everything's working on it. Now what I could do is just steal the cable out of here, unhook it from there, and swap it into the other one, which is what I may end up doing because this one here is busted. But that one in there has also tape residue, not just from me just putting it on there, but there was lots of tape residue out. So we'll have to see after I get that one out what I'm going to need to do. Let me show you what I'm working on. See this hole right up here? And when that's in the car, that's where the emergency brake assembly goes. It literally runs straight across here. And in order to access this screw, because it's so tight, there's no access holes or anything like that through the parking brake assembly, you literally have to unbolt the front part of that assembly, and then you can pull the whole part of that out so you can get your hand up in here. Here you can see how I have the emergency brake assembly unbolted here. And what I used was this apparatus. This is an offset with a Phillips driver on it on my drill, and I was able to get in there and get it loose enough. And you can see it up in there. Have it out, and boy did that escalate quickly. Let me show you. So remember how I just loosened up the emergency brake cable assembly? Well, I had to take the 2 bolts out of the firewall so I can take the unit down. That wasn't enough, so I had to unplug the light wire for it and turn it upside down so it would be on the opposite side of the cable where it comes through the floor to give enough space. And then the dimmer switch had to be unbolted, not to mention the lower steering column collar here had to be removed because the lip of that was catching everything. And then it still hit the fuse box, but I was able to bend it enough to get it separated. So yeah, that's a heck of a process. And I saw there was some leaves, debris down inside of there, so I'll have to vacuum that out before I get too far here. But take a look at what I've got. Hopefully all this, man, whoever owned this car before was very fond of glue. I mean, they had glue on everything. So hopefully this will come off of here. I can get this cleaned up. If not, then I'm going to have to clean this one here and possibly spray dye it because it is a slightly different color. Yeah. That's what I've got. Before, after. Well, okay, so I re-dyed this, so it's no longer that strange palish green. It's now black, which it's a little brighter than what the original piece is, but I think it's going to be pretty close, so it should look about right with the other side. So while that is setting up, let's go back on over into the car, and I should be safe to go ahead and start peeling all this masking off. Well, I'm happy with the way everything came out. Of course, I have a little piece of tape that tore, so we're going to see if we can fish that out of there without doing any damage. There we go. All right, I'm pretty happy with that. Got the dash all put back together again. Pretty happy with it. Glove box is working as it should. Redid my gauges. The other one that I had in here leaked, so now I have 2 that match, so that's working. I'm currently tackling this car stereo that was in here. It was the single DIN thing, so I cut a pretty massive hole in here, so hopefully I can make something out of that. Put this 8-track player in here. Also, I don't know how well you can see it over on the other side, but I got my replacement kick panel in place. Even put the old air freshener back hanging there again, so I thought that was kind of cool. Got to work on this radio here. See if I can get that 8-track player in here. Took a bit of work, but I've got the old 8-track player in place. It's quite a challenge considering it was a rectangular hole there and nothing else. But sorry I didn't show you the whole detail of how I did it, but I just needed to bust it out and get it done because it's getting late. But pretty happy here. I do need to do some cleaning in the car yet, as well as cleaning the outside of the car. And then it'll be about ready for this show.